Hey guys, Dale from Schwartz Performance here for our June 2020 shop update. I know you've missed us. It's been a while since we did a shop update, but despite all the madness going on in the world, we've continued to build cars. We have remained open, at least in the shop, and made a lot of headway. So let's go check it out. We've been putting in some hours on the SKart lately. I've really wanted to get this thing out at some shows this summer. Obviously, a lot of them have been canceled or postponed. So we've been finalizing some of the remaining items on the task list, such as the exhaust is now fabricated, sounds awesome, via some hooker mufflers. And then we've got the oil cooler hooked up and a bunch of other odds and ends to make this thing a little more street legal. So the Good Guys show in Des Moines is coming up here pretty soon. We just got word that it is a go. So it's the 4th of July weekend, and this will be there in the autocross. So I'm excited to have it there and finally get to drive it a little bit, because there's literally been like no shows around us to go to, and barely anywhere to test at as far as autocross and stuff goes. So I'm really excited to get this thing out, and we've just got a few more things to button up here in the next couple of weeks, but otherwise it's pretty close to completion. On the chassis side of things, we've been extremely busy in the last few months. I've got a 51 Chevy 3100 chassis here going to a shop in southern Illinois. And then right over here, I've got a 77 Trans Am chassis. Now this customer opted to get some awesome Forge Line TA3 wheels. These are 18s in the front, 19 by 12s in the back with some Michelin tires. So this one has our Bear brake package on it. Obviously power steering and full floater rear end are all standard. And we added some powder coat to this thing. So this was actually heading out in a couple of days to the customer, and he's going to end up putting an LS engine in here with a T56. So we've got headers available for him that he bought as well. And we've got a lot of other chassis in the works right now. And we've got a lot of sales that have come through the last couple of months, so we're just trying to crank them out as fast as we can. It may not look like much has happened on Ray's 49 Woody here, but I assure you we've done a lot of fabrication work on it. We got the coolant tubes added. We've mounted a custom heat exchanger and mounted a custom intercooler tank for the supercharger system. Fabricated some custom stainless steel headers, as well as a 3-inch dual exhaust that we're still in the process of, but it's nearly complete. And completed the firewall fabrication. We got to still do some final welding on the chassis and the transmission tunnel. But all in all, this thing is coming along really well. We've got a little bit of plumbing left, as far as the fuel system goes, but we're making quite a bit of headway on this one. Well, last time you saw this car, it was not in paint yet. This is Kimber's 67 Chevelle. You saw it back in the January 2020 shop update, and we had just mounted it on the chassis for the final time. It's since been painted, and if you recall, it's a ceramic matrix gray from a brand new Corvette. And we got the big block mounted in here, the trans. This thing runs, it's very close to driving, and so we've gotten all of the plumbing done. Virtually everything in the engine bay is all complete. Some of the interior's already been done as well. It's going with a little bit more of a stock style interior, so it's not going to be a wild custom like a lot of our projects get. But we got some scat seats in there. The rear seats are upholstered to match the fronts, which looks pretty nice. So it's very understated interior, but this is a nasty big block with a lot of power. So we're going to be test driving this here probably next week, and working some of the bugs out and getting the rest of the interior buttoned up. We recently got Luke's 75 Trans Am back from the paint shop. It's finished in a pearl white color, so it's in the final assembly stages officially, and we're just putting together all of the plumbing, and just got the exhaust on, and everything that we had already prefabricated is now going on. So once all the body panels and everything are on here on the front, it'll end up going to the interior shop after that to get completely reupholstered. Back in January, we had just gotten Henry's 74 Nova here back from the paint shop. Since then, we've made a lot of progress getting all of the connections terminated. We've got all the coolant lines plumbed, the intercooler system, all the wiring on the engine is complete. We've got the Mighty Mouse PCB catch can attached to it. So it's really close to being a running car. We still have to have the ECU flashed because it was a LT1 Corvette engine that we put a LT4 blower on, so it requires a little bit different calibration on it. And you know, besides that, we've got the interior shop working on some of the upholstery already. This one's getting some OEM Corvette seats in it that are getting reupholstered to kind of match the theme of the car. So this thing will be on the road pretty soon. I'm really excited to see this thing. We also got the Forge Line wheels on here, I forgot to mention. And other 19s in the front, 20s in the back. So I'm really stoked to get this thing going. It's been a while since we talked about Joe's 69 GTO convertible here. It's basically done. We're just working out some of the final bugs that have popped up, as is with any other build that you get complete. There's little odds and ends that come up that you need to fix. This thing's powered by a 600 plus horsepower LS7 dry sump engine. It's got an automatic trans behind it. So this thing is the ultimate cruiser. Joe had us build this for him just to cruise around, cruise down the highway, and be super comfortable, but also sound nice. So that's why we put the cam in this LS7. It sounds awesome. It's got a really nice rumble to it. On the interior side, we had Shane Casson of Casson Customizing and his team reupholster the entire stock interior, but in leather. So instead of being the kind of cheap looking vinyl the factory had, or even replacement vinyl seat covers would be, he completely did custom leather. It looks really top notch. The door panels are custom, leather wrapped as well. The seats front and back are factory, but they just look so much nicer. We also put a Dakota Digital gauge pack in it, so it's got electronic gauges now, Sirius XM tuner, Bluetooth radio, so all the you know, modern amenities that you'd want in your old car. So this thing's really close to being wrapped up and getting into the customer's hands here in the next few weeks. Got a couple new projects here. To my right, I've got a 78 Mercedes 450 SLC. This one's getting a custom G-Machine chassis fitted with an LT4 dry sump engine and a sequential T56 Magnum transmission. So this is pretty unconventional compared to what we normally do, which is why I'm so excited about starting on it. It's going to be a really, really cool project. So we're at the very beginning stages of this thing and some of the disassembly. And to my left, I've got a 61 GMC. Now this truck is here because we are developing the 60 to 66 Chevy C10 GMC truck chassis. So that's a model year range that we have not supported yet. So we will be able to now. This thing's going to get torn apart here in the next couple months, and custom chassis will be fitted to it, where we'll make jigs and everything off of that to be able to offer that as a product. So both couple new projects, a little different from each other, but needless to say, I'm excited to start on both of them. We got Sean's 67 Mustang Coupe here mounted to our G-Machine chassis. I got the whole car in epoxy primer. There's a little bit of rust repairs and metal work to do to get it into the current stage that it's in. We modified the inner fender panels to close those off because we deleted the shock towers. This thing is getting an LT4, yes, a GM supercharged engine and a T56 Magnum transmission. So we did have to modify the tunnel just a little bit, but overall the firewall didn't require any modifications other than normal. I mean, normally we would put like Coyote engines or something in these, so we always smooth out the firewall, but there wasn't any setback required or anything. And our standard headers ended up fitting pretty decent. So this is going to be a pretty cool build, and you know, hopefully none of the Ford guys are yelling at us too badly, but the customer really wanted a good amount of horsepower at a good price, and the LT4 was just there to do so. We've still got a little bit of metal work to do before we continue on with the pre-assembly mock-up stage, but it's rolling along pretty nicely. Speaking of engines that don't belong in their cars that we're building, right here we got a Hellcat engine, an 86 Bonti Carlo. So why are we doing this, you ask? Well, it's all the customer's choice. The customer brought us a Cleveland Power and Performance dropout from a Challenger with the 8HP90 automatic transmission. So we'll never say no to you know, to doing different engine swaps and stuff like that. This is fitted with our G-Machine chassis, so at least it's got a really nice platform to build that kind of horsepower off of. The engine might be modified a little bit, so it's probably going to put out at least 800 horsepower at the crank. So rear end is built up. We've got the Bear Extreme Plus brakes that are going to be going on this thing, 35 spline axle. So very solid underpinnings for this big power plant. Surprisingly, there's a good amount of room still left in the engine bay. There'll be plenty of room for headers, radiator, heat exchanger, all that good stuff. So right now we're in the middle of kind of the mock-up stage. We're in the middle of doing mini tubs as well right now to fit the 22 by 12 inch rear wheels. So pretty ginormous rears. It's getting 20-inch fronts. So yeah, we're just going to continue building on some of the mock-up stuff, getting it plumbed and exhaust fabricated and that kind of thing. And we may end up taking this all the way to the end, maybe minus the interior, but that's kind of to be determined yet. So kind of excited to do this one since it's so different. We got this one and the Mustang that are getting just opposite engines of what they should be getting. So hope you don't hate these guys too much for doing this stuff, but I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it's definitely thinking out of the box, doing things differently. So that's what we're all about here at Schwartz Performance. So I'm excited to do this one. Jim has been making a ton of progress on this 67 Cougar project. This has got a supercharged Coyote by ProCharger. ProCharger makes a pretty nice retro swap kit for their Coyote engine. So this kit was designed for a Fox body Mustang. Needless to say, it required some modification. We thought it would be completely fine given the width and everything, but once we put it in there and cut out the inner fender apron to fit the blower on there, we soon realized that there was zero tire clearance. We'd have to run a pretty narrow and small diameter wheel in order to fit the bracket that was on there. So, you know, occasionally we run into things like this where it's not, you know, perfectly fitting to our needs. So what we ended up doing was reverse engineering the plate basically that mounts the ProCharger onto the Coyote engine and moved the ProCharger up a little bit further here. So it's a little bit higher and much closer to the engine. So we gained like a couple inches of tire clearance. So that was adequate for the wheel and tire combo that we wanted to do on this thing. So custom machined plate. All of this tubing and everything is all completely custom. This is the ProCharger intercooler that they supply with the system, which we were able to make fit, but we had to modify the hood latch assembly heavily, and the Cougar has flip-up headlights here, so the big doors that flip up here, and I had to modify a lot of the brackets of that and reinforce it. Also on the front here, we found a company that makes electric conversion for the headlight doors. So that was pretty cool to get rid of the giant vacuum diaphragms, make it look a little nicer on there and work quite a bit faster. We also got this custom closeout panel, which covers the radiator and some of the intake piping up here. So that still needs a little bit of, you know, final adjustments and things. But we've been making a ton of progress. I mean, we got this thing mini tubbed, we got everything fully plumbed, all the fuel systems done. The exhaust is probably the next thing that needs to be completed, and then you know, once that's done and we finalize everything else that we need to on the plumbing side, it'll get blasted apart and get painted. This thing's going to end up being a kind of like light teal color with a charcoal vinyl top. So this wasn't an original XR7, but the customer wanted a vinyl top to reminisce on previous XR7 that they had when they were younger. So we were able to find some vinyl top trim, and it'll get fitted with that. And then we're waiting on you know, some custom wheels to come in for this as well. So it's made a lot of progress since you guys last saw it, and we'll continue working on it. Been doing quite a bit of fabrication on the sheet metal side of this 54 Studebaker. I haven't quite gotten to the fender flares that we talked about in the previous shop update. Those are still on the back burner, but we've been doing a lot of the closeout panels and stuff on this thing. The trunk pan is completely fabricated. We got the wheel wells looking really nice. The floor pan is going to be coming next. So regarding the floor, I actually had our laser cutter cut out these floor braces. So this will be one of 4 pieces that get welded together for each floor brace. There's going to be 3 of these in the floor pan. So once those are fabricated and welded in, then we'll be building a custom floor pan around it to house over the transmission tunnel and the rest of the floor. The drive shaft and everything sticks up pretty high into the car on this one because we dropped the body so darn low. So there's a little, a lot of sheet metal work to be done still. We got the radiator mounted in this thing, and once the sheet metal's a little bit more complete, we're going to be plumbing the rest of it, doing exhaust, that kind of thing. Well, we've got quite a few projects going on in this room. We got an 83 Olds Cutlass that just came back from the Media Blaster, and we got it in epoxy primer. So this one we had worked on a little bit, gotten some of the plumbing done, and it'll be mounted to the chassis once we get all the bottom bed liner done and some of the final sheet metal work that still needs a little bit of touch-up. Got the 63 Chevy 2 convertible back from E-coating. So that's in a nice black finish now. So we're going to start doing some of the body work and things on that. Then we've got another new project here, a 78 Trans Am. This one is in the middle of a mini tub process. We're putting Detroit Speed mini tubs in it that we modified to fit a 345 tire. So in the middle of that one's getting an LT4 and an 8-speed that we already have. So once this process is done, it'll get mounted to the chassis and we'll continue the build from there. Well guys, that's it for this month's shop update. Appreciate you watching. Happy to be doing these shop updates again for your viewing pleasure. We're building some really cool stuff here, and I'm excited to share it all again with you guys. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you're out and about this summer, if there's local cruise nights going around the Northern Illinois area, you'll probably see us there in the SKart or maybe some of the other vehicles that we have. And then if you're going to be out at the Good Guys Des Moines show, please come visit the autocross. We're going to have a couple of our customers down there. Mark and the Gremlin's going to be there. Ryan with his 68 Camaro. We're going to have the SKart race in there. So it'll be a really good time. Hopefully the weather's nice. That's over the 4th of July weekend again. So look forward to doing this again next month, and we will see you then.